is Rajasthan. Royal, ethereal and astounding. It is where life is lived king size. Rajasthan is an experience a minute. And my journey started with an exciting one. Very early morning, just outside Jaipur, where the Skywalls team was all set to take me up into the sky. Recently, the times have been completely crazy and people are scared of flying. But this kind of flying, well, it's a whole different kind of high, especially when you are in a fabulous location like this. Let me show you why. Watching the sunrise from over the trees, seeing the lush green Aravalli hills waving to excited children as they looked up at the balloon in which the propane burners hissed, taking me higher and higher, was truly an uplifting experience. So this is a crazy kind of high and it's so great to be out again, but hey, we are Autocar and there has to be a car, right? This road trip into western Rajasthan from Jaipur to Jaisalmer via Jodhpur is a sensory indulgence. Each place is a new high, and our first stop was Ahmed or Sambar Fort, which was just half an hour's drive away. Ahmed or Sambar Fort sits atop Chil Ka Tila, that translates into Hill of Eagles. It's built in pink sandstone that is typical of the area and it towers above Mauta Lake. The road to the fort itself offers great views of it and you will encounter lots of elephants along the way, mahouts atop. The final stretch is a steep cobblestone climb which the Q8 dismissed easily. And while the Q8 may have dismissed the road, never dismiss a fort in Rajasthan because you've seen one in another place. Each one of these forts is astounding in its own unique way. While Kumbhalgarh near Udaipur is about largesse, Amer in Jaipur is about opulence. The gate opens into a massive courtyard where its armies used to display their plunder in earlier times. As it leads you into its marvelous halls, the Diwane Aam, the hall of public audience, and the Diwane Khas, the hall of private audience, it begins to weave its magic. Oh, now that I have a little bit of space and free room, I can breathe a little easy, take off my mask and welcome you to my kingdom. Yes, these forts, they make you feel so grand and so much larger than life. Ahmed Fort or Sambar Fort, where I am standing currently, is one such fort built in the Mughal style of architecture. I mean, look at the detailing on this gate behind me. It is simply amazing. Behind behind this gate Ganesh pole lies Sheesh Mahal. It's where a lot of Indian films have been shot, Bollywood films, most famously Mughal-e-Azam, where the famous song Pyar Kiya To Darna Kya was shot inside. It's said that a single source of light can actually light up the whole place because it has a lot of concave mirrors. Simply fantastic, lots to explore. Let's go. This is something else. There's just so much detailing here. It is stupefying. Every corner you turn, it's just so stunning. It's gobsmackingly gorgeous. I'm just blown away by this place. Leave a better part of an afternoon for a visit and wear your best walking shoes as the fort is spread over 4 square kilometers and it's also connected to Jaigarh Fort, which takes almost a couple of hours to walk around. Sunset on our day, I drove into Jaimahal Palace, another beautiful heritage property that is now a hotel where one can stay. The evening was another gastronomical exploration at Lakshmi Mishtan Bhandar, or LMB to locals, one of Jaipur's most famous sweetmeat shops. So a day in Rajasthan can never be complete without coming to eat some street food, and today in particular for me is a feast of sweetmeats. I'm only going to be a whole load fatter when I leave here, as you can see. Right here in the center, we have something that's very, very typical to Rajasthan. It's called ghevar. It's made out of dry hung curd and flour and crispy fried and then dipped in sugar syrup. So yeah, it's terribly sweet. Here I have something that's from very close to where I am in Jaipur, from Alwar, called Alwari Kalakan. That is gujia, again very typically Rajasthani. They're all just delicious. I'm going to just dig in, have a bite, can't resist. Sinfully sweet, but yum. No meal or food in Rajasthan is replete without washing it down with the local lassi, which is yogurt churned into a thick shake, and it offers a cool and soothing feeling to the overly full stomach. And while I stayed in one palace, dinner was at another, the exquisite Rambagh, which was home to Maharani Gayatri Devi. Books have been written on this enigmatic queen, and the palace is another wonder. As you enter its gates, an entire locomotive engine greets you. Aptly named Steam, it is now a restaurant where one can dine. But it is the interior that will dazzle you with its bejeweled chandeliers and silk-clad walls with rich decor. A short tour and the royal dinner on 24-carat gold dishes and Versace crockery in the Swarna Mahal, where the walls are clad in rich silk tapestry and the ceilings carry frescoes of the Four Seasons, gave me a glimpse into the lives of the rich and famous. The icing on the cake was actually having a chat with the butler of Maharani Gayatri Devi, who still works here, and he regaled me with stories of her life and times. The experiences to be had in Rajasthan are of epic proportions, and each moment has a magic of its own. I awoke next morning to the lovely tunes of a flautist playing in the garden that offered views of the giant chessboard at Jaimahal. Shatranj, as it is known in India, was a popular game of strategy that royalty used to even bet their fortunes on at one time. However, my strategy for the day was to trundle off in the Q8 to explore Jaipur, and it soon became evident why this is called the Pink City. Gates of pink and sandstone buildings of the same red terracotta-like color line the streets, and wherever you look, it was this pink. Jaipur itself is a hustling, bustling city, and Badi Chowpar, or the Old Town, is the marketplace where all the action and monuments are. Hawa Mahal, or the Palace of Winds, built by Sawai Pratap Singh, a devotee of Lord Krishna. He designed it in the shape of Lord Krishna's crown. While Hawa Mahal's star attraction certainly is its iconic facade, the one with this incredible 953 windows, it is in no way less impressive on the inside. The labyrinthine innards of the palace are simply captivating, and in all honesty, you need to devote a few hours to it at the very least. A short walk away from the Hawa Mahal is the city palace, which houses a textile museum and one that displays ornaments from centuries ago, giving you a glimpse into the grandeur that Rajasthani culture is built on. The city palace is a beautiful walkabout. There is lots to see, and the museum is also really interesting. But what I found most interesting here are these two massive silver jars. They're the largest silver jars in the whole world. At 5'3", they stand as tall as me, but they're not as light as me, because at 345 kilos each, they're very heavy. They can carry 4,091 liters and definitely can carry me in it as well. Around the same complex is Jantar Mantar, which means instruments of calculation, and it houses one of 4 surviving equinoctial sundials in the country. And it's home to many other bewildering devices that calculate time, phases of the moon, and much more. This 18th century observatory is aptly qualified as a UNESCO World Heritage Site and is an astronomer's delight. inside these monuments is a buzzing marketplace with colourful and interesting local handicrafts. To buzz around the narrow lanes, I took a ride in an E-Rickshaw, the electric three-wheelers that populate the streets of Jaipur. Jaipur is full of these E-Rickshaws, which is probably good for the environment and good enough to negotiate through the narrow market lanes. But I have to say, it is a rib-rattling experience, as you can see. Jaipur is known for its leather mojeries or pointed-toe embroidered shoes and bright patchwork. There are also turbans in all kinds of colours and prints ready-made, so you just have to put them on. Roadside vendors sell you concocted perfumed oils, which will match any of your expensive brands. Jaipur is also known for its white marble carvings and craftsmanship, and many an idol is built here in its narrow lanes. And also the blue pottery, for which it is now world famous. So there is lots to entice you in this marketplace and empty your pockets. After a morning well spent, I went to a very popular eatery, Spice Court, to have what else but the local delicacy lal mas, a preparation of lamb curry that is famous in this region. The other local dishes to try are the Keema Bhati, which is minced lamb in a large dough casing, and the gatta, another curry, but with gram flour dumplings. After a heavy meal like this, a nap is much needed, and I retreated back to my room for a rest. Needless to say, Jaipur is a culinary delight, but it is also a cultural extravaganza. What more could one ask for, you say? Well, that's just it about Rajasthan. Every time you think an experience cannot be topped, it exceeds itself. From Jaipur, I headed out to western Rajasthan, and the drive from Jaipur to Jodhpur is an effortless 350 kilometers and can easily be covered in just about 5.5 hours. But my advice is take the day, as there's just so much to see and do. So a crack of dawn start, and I always like to get out early because you kind of miss all the traffic in the city. You manage to get out on the highway a lot easier. So it's nice to start off at around 5:30 or 6 in the morning. And today it's more important because we've got a long journey ahead, about 350 kilometers to Jodhpur. And I have a stop on the way as well, Sambar Lake first up. So Sambar Lake is a destination to visit because it's India's largest inland saltwater lake, and the area around it is kind of a very large salt flat, so you can really kick up the dust and have some fun. To get to Sambar Lake, there are narrow lanes to negotiate and some really uneven sections of road. Really happy to have the Q8, which has my back today. Pretty much sails over everything. Potholes, ditches, just dismisses them like the one I just went through. Don't have to worry about anything at all. But as you get to the area around the lake, it smoothens out. Vast, empty, open, sandy banks invite you to just kick up the dust and let the child in you take over. beauty about road trips is this. You can actually do some mad, crazy stuff with your car that you've always wanted to do but never been able to do. Get out, find open spaces and just have fun. Live a little again. I paid an ode to the Q8 that was keeping me cool and comfortable in the searing heat and letting me have bucket loads of fun sliding around. Yeah, if you are a driving enthusiast like me, this is the place to come. Not only for the beauty of its sheer sandy expanse, but because you can really kick it up without a worry. After spraying my entire camera team in showers of sand and hurling some of them around in the back of the car, I decided to call it and head back out onto the highway. The rest of the journey passed by in a flash on the smooth, silky highway that looked like it was just freshly laid out for me. And just when you think, what a day, something else on this road trip will make your jaw drop. Arriving at the gate of Umaid Bhawan in Jodhpur, I will put money on the fact that you will be left with your jaw touching the floor. The sheer grandeur and size of its facade leaves you open-mouthed in awe. I was welcomed like royalty with rose petals lining my way, and what I experienced that evening can only be described as a royal repast. Red carpets, beautiful lights and guards lined my path that led up to the shamiana built in the center of the garden. The lights and the decor on the table against the backdrop of the palace lit up made for a movie-like experience. A sumptuous meal and local dancers swirling around singing the song that is the ode to guests in Rajasthan, Kesariya, Balam, Avoni, Padharo Mare Desh, created an experience to behold and one that is difficult to describe in even the best of superlatives. If living the royal life is on your bucket list, Rajasthan is the place to do it. Well, I've travelled around Rajasthan seeing many palaces, many forts, but the grandeur of Umaid Bhawan, well, it is just gobsmacking. I mean, look at this palace behind me. Spread over 26 acres with 347 rooms, this is the Maharaja of Palaces. It took 15 years to build and it is still the residence of the royal family even today here in Jodhpur. The good news here is that you can live here too. And if you think that's all that's in this fairy tale, then think again. Leave a day in your schedule to just explore this fabulous palace. The central atrium of this hotel is an exquisite work of art in itself. And experiences like the peacocks that eat out of your hands or a tour around the palace where you can visit the rooms where the likes of Barack Obama, Mick Jagger and more recently Priyanka Chopra have stayed give you memories of a lifetime to take home. Built to help provide employment to the local people to tide over a rough time, it is also a most curiously unique structure. Built like a Lego fortress using massive interlocking blocks rather than being held together by mortar. An interesting fact, blocks of ice were used in between the blocks so that they could be rotated to fit as the ice melted. The palace also has an ancient ventilation system where ice could be placed in the gallery vents or warmth provided. And certain rooms even have levers that could switch it on and off. Ingenuity that left me amazed. There is no adjective good enough to describe the magnificence of this otherworldly structure, and certainly no photographs that can do it justice. Another place to visit in Jodhpur is the Miranda Fort. To get there from Umaid Bhawan, I had to jostle with cyclists and squeeze the Q8 through some narrow spaces to arrive at the palace gates. If Amer was about opulence, Miranda is about intricacy. With an almost effeminate architectural appeal, there is a soulfulness to Miranda that lies beyond its imposing facade. Quite unlike your typical fort, it's more a body of grace and elegance than of stoic brutality that its history holds. Local musicians lined its walls playing the Ravan Hatta with melodious Rajasthani music. But as I learned, it is an instrument that isn't as easy to play as it looks. Terrible, I'll kill everybody. The joy of travel and exploring is not only that you learn so much, but these small experiences that give you a flavor of the place you're in and the people and the culture of the local region. Miranda, the palace I was exploring, was built in 1459 by Rao Jodha and holds a history of many wars. Today, its massive walls and intricate architecture speak silently of the history and are worth an afternoon of exploration. In the courtyard, the massive cooking vessels that are displayed are big enough for one to fit in standing up, leaving one to imagine the kind of food that was cooked up for the feasts. And after exploring the palace grounds and its beauty, I headed to the top, where the cannons are aimed at a spectacular view of the city, the blue houses and the Umaid Bhawan Palace in the distance. Yes, Jodhpur is the blue city, known for the houses painted bright blue. Just a short distance from the palace, they're a great place for a leisurely stroll along the narrow alleys. Why are these houses painted this bright blue? Well, I found out it was for a couple of reasons. The color reflects heat, and blue is also the color of Lord Shiva. After a walk about the palace and the blue houses, I was happy to be back in the cool comfort of my Q8 with its ventilated seats that cool you down instantly. With the tunes of Rajasthan playing on the sound system and reflecting on all that I had seen, I headed back to the hotel to end another spectacular day. The next day, I bundled all my luggage along with the camera crew's equipment into the back of the Q8 and hit the road to my last destination on this journey, Jaisalmer. The 280 kilometers from Jodhpur to Jaisalmer is on another gossamer smooth highway. The Q8's smooth and refined engine provided the oomph for me to enjoy the road thoroughly. As you head further west into Rajasthan, traffic thins and the highways get emptier, letting you enjoy the drive even more. And of course, the terrain changes. NH 125 that goes between Jodhpur and Jaisalmer is just a fabulous stretch of highway. It's single lane, but oh my god, this surface is just like glass. You can waft along comfortably, and I'm just going to set this in cruise control so I can enjoy the view and talk to you and tell you a little bit more about this stretch of highway in this region as you get into this region. And if you look ahead of me, you will see the sand dunes. Now, as we get into this western part of Rajasthan, you can see the sides of the road get sandier because we really are coming into the desert, and that's what Jaisalmer is really popular for, the dunes, the camel safaris. But on this road as well, some interesting sights to see. possibly Pokhran, which is the location where India tested its nuclear bomb. So that's just before Jaisalmer and you can go in. But lots to do in this western region of Rajasthan, and of course great roads to drive on. The joy of a road trip is being able to stop wherever you set your eyes. Like they say in Rajasthan, "Jaane kya dikh jaye," which means you never know what you'll see. And that's the joy of a road trip. You really never know what's around the next corner, where you can go. But when you're driving, you can always stop and take in the beauty. The short but enjoyable drive brought us into the small quaint town of Jaisalmer. The last day in Rajasthan was spent exploring Jaisalmer. Garisar Lake with the Bada cenotaphs is a great place at sunrise. And Jaisalmer Fort is another stunner. But what it really offers is plenty of dunes. The landscape had changed drastically. Sand embankments line the roads. Windmills slowly churned as I drove through the narrow, dusty roads. Women clad in bright-colored clothing carried loads of wood on their head and walked along as camels sat waiting beside the road for tourists to come and take a ride. It's an experience to soak in, and en route there are lots of places to explore. There's a deserted village called Kuldhara that has all broken down houses and ancient folklore that speaks of it being haunted. Don't know about the ghosts, but it definitely makes for a fabulous place for pictures. So, short drive from Jaisalmer, there's some dunes. This place is the Rajasthan that I imagined. What's a set of dunes without a camel ride to enjoy them? Or better still, when you're like me, kicking up the dust as the sun sets on what can only be described as a superlative journey. Oh my God, what a setting. I mean, this is just so spectacular. Just being in the open, nothing around me, breathing easy, especially after such a long period of lockdown. This has been such an absolutely fabulous journey. Rajasthan has so much to offer. It's just indescribable. To end our day, the team at Desert Glamping had it all laid out for us. The full desert experience. As I sat there in the darkness and stared into the Milky Way, I thought that I've had just but a taste of Rajasthan, experienced a small corner of what is a majestic, colourful canvas. For sure, there is more to be explored.